Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out an early build of something called Fabric by developer Torang. The developer describes this as a first-person puzzle game where you manipulate voxel-based environments to reach the goal. And what that means for us essentially is that we're trying to get from point A to point B in sort of little mini labyrinthian areas, and we'll be using these red nodes like the ones you see in the title to basically squash space in between those so the two line up, thereby giving us passage, and then we can essentially unclasp those as well and then proceed back to the level as it used to be. So it's a little bit of an interesting premise, and it's one that I think is definitely conducive to an interesting video as well. I enjoyed the presentation, and I saw the developer was actually soliciting criticism on it, so I figured what better way than to just make an Indie Impressions video and give them my thoughts as we go. So I have played about 10 minutes or so of this one so far, and so far my opinion has been positive, but why don't we just jump into it and have a little bit of a look around. So of course, as usual, we're going to keep in mind that this is an early along build, so there's probably some things that'll be tweaked and changed so far. The things that I got first impressions-wise as soon as I launched into this one, well, I was noticing, well, it's a little bit of a, kind of a static-looking game environment. I've seen places that have looked pretty similar to this before. Maybe even reminds me a little bit, and I don't mean this in a derisive way, of a sort of like a Minecraft texture pack or something. But then there's some pretty cool effects happening outside of the world, where we've got this sort of, I'm gonna guess, like memory corruption effect happening in the sky here, as well as this laser light show that seems to be going on. And occasionally you'll see like little yellow lightning bolts as well, like that one over there. So I guess kind of what the story is that we're going after, and I'll just go to our exit here, is that we're probably sort of in some sort of corrupted RAM or trying to like free up some kind of memory from a problem. I don't know, that's kind of the quick impression that I get anyway. I'm not sure if the kind of default Unity skybox makes sense for this, but it also doesn't really detract for anything, or from anything either, so it's, just kind of there. The other cool effect that I'm not sure if this was necessarily intentional or just happened to be the way that it was, but if you look at the view distance, you'll notice where the edge of those red lines is. As we walk forward, it almost appears like the world is kind of activating around us, although it's just that that effect is being drawn in as we get closer. So we'll just do a little bit of basic platforming here, taking note, of course, that our character can jump exactly one tile's length high, or one block length high. And we'll just proceed through the few easy levels here before we actually get into anything complex. I do like that it almost loads in at the beginning. Some of the tiles go from being, unstable to all of a sudden realized and put back to normal. I think we're meant to probably go along the platforms in the center here, but you can actually make the jump over to this edge, so there's not really a point in going the long, difficult way when you just do like that. Although, how difficult is it really? Let's be honest. And what we're really up for here is getting to this stuff. This is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. So the first time I got to that point, I was kind of terrified, actually, because that sound and the vibration is pretty creepy to me, and you'll see that red block is actually filling up. So every time that fills and drains, it's going to alternate, and this is just to give us a little bit of a preview of what we can expect from the game world in general. So I assume if you were, like, in between those two blocks, you'd probably end up getting crushed or something like that. Let's just not put ourselves in that position if possible. And we'll go on to the next level. And what do we have here? It looks like we've got a vertically squishing one this time. And we want to get up to this block and up to here. And it looks like everything's going to be just fine. You can actually see from over here what's happening. Or maybe actually from this direction you can't see very well. Oh well. There'll be more opportunities for us to squish and transform the level in a bit. Like right now, for example. So this is the weapon that we get, or I don't know if weapon is the right word, but tool, that allows us to link these two red blocks, and then there's no timer on them anymore, as you can see. So we can just basically set them up the way we want, then right-click to retract them again, and, cross gaps and chasms that way. Very good fit for the music, I also have to say. I mean, I don't know if it's placeholder music, but it's very ethereal, it's interesting, keeps my attention. And it kind of hints at maybe there's something bigger going on than even we're, being indicated to. So then I'll right-click and retract that, and then all of a sudden we've got some stairs. And I love that there's like a little hidden dynamic light source in there too that all of a sudden shows up to light the way. I could see there being some really interesting ways that is put forward into the level design later on, that maybe there's a path that you can light your own way from by connecting the right nodes. So you can even see maybe there's invisible blocks that only light up when you have the right tiles that cast the proper light, that maybe put a shadow. I don't know, are we doing the whole shadow thing? It looks like we're kind of just doing light for light's sake. But anyway, let's let that go. And then there's our exit. So the exit was actually obscured by the crushed tiles as well there. I think there was a PSP game that took a similar route to this as far as the puzzle solving, but I actually can't remember much about that one. I mean, I guess you could say even Paper Mario is kind of taking a similar route to things, but I've never really seen it done properly in like a 3D, almost like a Portal-like execution before. Find that kind of interesting all by itself. So we'll get over here, retract. Oh, there's our exit. I didn't even realize where we were trying to go, actually, so just kind of crush that back together, and if I'm right in the center, it's not going to let me do it, in case you were wondering. And there will be a new dynamic thrown in a second here. This is giving us an arrow showing us over there. Probably not necessary. I mean, you can see the beacon coming up from the blue, right? And then we can actually, well, we can't reach this, but it's only got a red cube on one side, so why don't we link that all the way back to this one? As long as they're in a horizontal line, we can crush the entire level down just to this point and then make the jump to the end. It's a rather elegant solution. I feel like perhaps as far as difficulty goes so far, and I know this is again still placeholder stuff, so I'm not super worked up about it, but I think this was maybe a little bit on the easy side. Maybe I'm just like kind of quick to jump into these types of things, but I didn't find any of these puzzles at the beginning to be particularly difficult or anything. But I also understand that, you know, we're easing in a little at a time. I just think maybe it would be, you know, maybe even a little faster is fine. I don't want people to get turned away just by the fact that, you know, maybe it's too easy for them at the beginning and maybe they don't find much challenge. Because, like, honestly, I just went and hit a button and then jumped down. Nothing too crazy about that. And how many levels are we in now? I don't know, it seems like a few. But I have the feeling when things get difficult, they're going to get very difficult, because this just has that kind of an idea about it. I don't really think I have a ton of you know, evidence to prove that yet, because the only level I've gotten to that was slightly difficult wasn't still all that difficult. Let's hit this button. Oh, I accidentally hit the right click, and it causes our gun to buzz, because I didn't need to release any cubes there. Buzzes for a little longer than I think is desirable. And then we just gotta get over here, release, and there's our blue, I almost said orb. Blue shaft of light. And I think soon we're going to start getting options about how we proceed, and I think that's when things can get really wild. I think instead of these tiny little kind of nuggets of levels, I might have preferred if maybe the level design was a little bit more open and allowed you to have a little more freedom with the ways that you can kind of mess with the world. Because I was imagining, what if you could see, like, all the way off in the distance, there's a node, like, a million miles away, and then you connect the two because you could just sort of barely see that pixel, and then all of a sudden, like, you've crushed a massive amount of space, which I think just could be kind of cool. So now we're going to vertically orient that. That'll give us some steps back up, and another kind of simple solution there. Okay, now we've got another light down. And we should have something to fall on, I believe. Yep, right here. And then we want to go right here. Hit that button, and how are we going to get back up is the real question. Well, there's that guy there. It's going to give us that light down to that. And what have I done? I might have been in the wrong spot for that to have made sense. Why don't we go right here? Oh, went right up in my face. Alright, well, we'll just jump around that. Get up on top of this. Release it, and there is our exit. I wonder how the exposition is going to be handled in this, if there's going to be any. I mean, it's not like that's really required. I mean, honestly, there's a certain kind of purity to the fact that we don't have to necessarily get mired down in too much of this. Not to mention the fact that I think I've seen this sort of a premise executed so many times before that maybe, I don't know, it might even seem a little disingenuous to try and, like, go through the motions of doing another, like, rogue AI, creative, sort of clever, half-humorous science issue. I don't know. I'm not sure it's really necessary. I think what we want to do is something like that. And as long as we're standing in that cube, we can actually hop right out. Now, we got to be in the right spot to release, because you can see we're actually in the red zone right now. If we get up here, though, there we go, we can pop on through, and then we can actually connect these, which will give us access to this button. Very nice, and actually our exit is right here. No, that's not true. Let's send that back. Oh, have I done something strange? Why was it doing that? Alright, well, we can just pop on down through, and there's our exit. Yeah, I kind of bent that one somehow. And I think this was the first level that's, like, gives you a few options of how to deal with things. I mean, there might only be one solution, but it seems like there's several. So we've essentially got to get up there, but we have to activate it first. Where's going to be our button? Who's got the button? Is there anything below us? That's kind of like eventually you'll start to get to the point you look around and you're like, hey, what do we have in this direction? What do we have in this direction? And kind of assert yourself through the game world and see what your options even are before you really kick into things. Kind of squish this. Oh, maybe we wanted to actually not be in the way there. Squish this down. And squish... Oh, wrong one. That one up. And there's our button. Now I've got to get up to it. It's a little bit too tall, so what we're going to need is... perhaps one of these guys can help us along. There we go. Now it's just one tile up. Alright. Seem to be a little stuck there. Can I... Can't seem to release... I can't move, actually, so maybe I've broken the game a little bit. Oh, that vibration sound is so creepy. I don't know what it is. It really reminds me of something macabre whenever I hear that. It's like the demons are coming after me. That would be a whole nother element, actually. Wait, is there a way I can... Can I shoot my way out of this problem? No, this is not... This is not your typical first-person shooter. Okay. Well, it looks like it seems we're stuck at this point. Oh, there's probably... Yeah, there's R for reset, isn't there? I forgot that's a thing. Fair enough. But I was just thinking, like, where would this go for, you know, expanded puzzles? Because eventually you're going to run into the situation where they almost seem perpetually and endlessly obtuse. And I'm not sure if that's really the right answer either. I think for the most bang for your buck, if a lot of people are going to be interested in this, you'd probably want something that kind of just makes it simple to understand and also really rewarding to play at the same time. You want something where it's like the premise isn't just abused to make it difficult. We want the premise to lead to fun gameplay. And I think this definitely has a potential for that, but I also think that given the wrong circumstances, if you find yourself in an awkward spot... Oh, geez, I'm stuck in the air. I think this level's got some problems. Oh, also, there was a level, I think it might have been the one where I had to go down under the platform. I just started falling through the air when I started the level, and I kept dying automatically. Eventually, I was able to catch myself, but I didn't realize why I was falling through the air. But yeah, I think this should definitely be more on the accessible side than the difficult side for this to be particularly rewarding. And right now, the early puzzles have been very much accessible and enjoyable. I just don't want to see this end up becoming so difficult that people see it and they're like, well, I don't care how to do that. I'm not going to bother. And I know that's like kind of disingenuous to the point of puzzle games. You want them to be intelligent and kind of clever in their execution, but this premise is just kind of cool to play with. So, you know, why not have more fun with it than anything and just make it more about that? Well, I suppose it's really up to the developer how they want to approach the whole thing. Can we squish this down? How about that? And then can we squish... Does this work across? Oh, I'm in the wrong spot, actually. But I'd like to see how they might be able to... Oh. Alright, let's squish this back together. Create new types of puzzles based on these same systems. I kind of wonder if these systems will even really apply later on in the gameplay. Whoa, no? Do I need to be higher than that tile, maybe? Why don't we squish those? No, I can't do that either. What about we squish down? What do we squish? No, I'm in the way for those. I've still yet to really figure out a good way to read this field. Oh, you know what? I can just hit the button from there. Thought I had to be right up against it, actually. And, yeah, so... This is what I get for saying it was too easy. Because now I've just kind of broken everything. How do we get this down from there? Something like this might work. Then something like that. Or that. Can we only have one active at a time, maybe? Oh, God. I'm not sure quite why I fell off the world there. Oh, it restarted me up there again. Alright. Just do one of those. No? You're not into it. I kind of appreciate on some levels that the developers didn't really go very much out of their way to, like, really make it obvious how everything works. You kind of just learn by doing, and I think that's usually always a positive thing. Almost always a positive thing. I didn't really feel like there was much in the way of confusion with the way I played this, but now I'm starting to wonder, like, if I maybe just don't entirely understand when I'm allowed to fuse things and when I can. Because I seem to be having trouble putting things together now for whatever reason. What about... Can't do that. Can't do that. Can't do that. Release it. Go down. Oh yeah, just release the whole level. And it did actually put me back on the ground, but now I seem to be stuck again. Alright, so there's some bugs. You know, like I said, that'll happen. Still early on. But it does seem like a pretty cool premise. Like I said, I'd like to see more, and I'm curious to know how they're going to pull that off and make things last on into a good amount of gameplay. You know, I would guess this is probably like a 2 to 4 hour puzzle game for a final version if, you know, if I was to just throw a number out, but I have no idea, honestly. Just completely speculating. It's just the trend seems to be that this type of puzzle game tends to last about that long. So whether or not they'll conform to that trend or not, I have no idea. But anyway, feel free to go check it out. This is, again, Fabric. I will have a link in the description if you'd like to go give this a download. You can also play it in your browser, and I'll have that link as well. I'm very curious to hear what you'll think about this one, so if you want to leave me a comment, I would appreciate that very much. Also, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like on it too. That always does help out a little bit, and be sure to come on back soon. New episodes of Indie Impressions have been a little bit less consistent lately, as I'm sure you've probably noticed, but I'm still just getting things a bit sorted out with a new schedule. I was thinking about doing them every other day, and then just some other things got in the way, and well, anyway, there'll be more Indie Impressions. Don't worry, they're not being replaced or going away or anything like that. If anything, they'll probably just become more frequent again starting next week, so... Look forward to that. Hopefully you still enjoy the series. If you do, let me know that as well. And I shall be back very soon. I will talk to you all later. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.